this is Erica Doering with IHN, Independent Horror News, and the movie that I reviewed this month is Fungicide, available on a DVD collection of independent horror movies called Drenched in Blood. It's definitely worth seeing. It starts out a little slow, like a lot of these movies do. We meet the mad scientist character, who lives in his parents' basement. There's a little interaction between him and his parents that is sort of useless. We see the mad scientist guy like stirring his magic potion, but then he stirs the magic potion for like, a good 5 minutes of stirring. A lot of stirring takes place in the first part of the movie. But don't worry, be patient, it pays off later. He is going mad, so I guess he decides to take a little mini vacation, and he ends up at this bed and breakfast run by this girl out of her apartment, which I think is a pretty good, entrepreneurial idea for this lady to be running a bed and breakfast out of her place. So he ends up there, and while he's going to go in there and like knock on the door, he drops his little experimental poison and it goes underneath the porch. So we don't know really what he was planning on doing before that with the poison, but I'm sure he was up to no good. So he goes inside, decides he wants to get a room there. She seems a little crazy and starts having premonition like flashes about the garden. And then, by the way, she has other premonitions for about her first maybe 15 minutes, and then never has them again. Never explains, wow, I'm having weird premonitions. It doesn't really get mentioned, but that's okay. She has other people that end up staying there while this is all happening. This real estate guy comes over, and he wants to stay there, and he rents a room from her, and he tells her how he wants her to sell the house, and she doesn't want to sell the house, and then he lets her know that he's been trying to get someone to sell this house since her parents were around, and then before that, when her grandparents were around. But the guy's only 40 years old, so I'm not really sure if he was doing this when he was 1 or what exactly, and it doesn't really seem to matter anyways, because that part of the story goes nowhere. And we have another character shows up who's a reality TV character. His name is Major Wang, and he's outside being filmed by one guy for the reality TV show in the garden, and he's fighting to get out of the garden and ends up at the bed and breakfast. Let's see, who's our next person? This wrestler guy who shows up. He's a wrestler, just wants to take a break from it all at the bed and breakfast, and he also happens to have a medical problem, spontaneous combustion. So that's his medical problem, that's kind of funny. And he also really loves himself and sets up in his room pictures of himself wrestling. So I like that character a lot. He's pretty cool. Then the mushrooms start to slowly reproduce, because they reproduce with their own spores or something, and that's kind of exciting. And the mushrooms are starting to get bigger and bigger. And then there's this one scene, probably one of my favorite scenes, is when one of the mushrooms, the mushrooms start killing people. And they're cute, and they're kind of sock puppets, and they have teeth and everything, and that's pretty awesome. They start killing people, and one of the mushrooms comes in, and the mad scientist guy is overjoyed to see his baby mushroom coming to life. And he spends some quality time with one of his mushroom babies in the kitchen. They sit down, they play video games together, they have a little, chat, have a little dinner. It's really sweet. And then the mushrooms are starting to get bigger, and now they're no longer sock puppet size. So now it's just sheets, with maybe Chinese mushroom shaped hats, but with gray sheets over them. And that was kind of cool. And then at some point the mushrooms get turned into, they use a lot of computer graphics, and the graphics are pretty terrible. So they need to do something to retaliate. Well, it just so happens that Major Wang happens to have a suitcase full of guns. So he lets everybody have some guns, and we see some pretty kick-ass action sequences happen in the backyard between this gang of 5 people, or not actually, not the mad scientist guy. He's all for keeping the mushrooms alive. So he gets tied up in a chair in the kitchen while we see the other four go and try to, you know, do a little mushroom ass kicking, basically, is what happens. And then the guy who has the spontaneous combustion problem that he's been taking medication for decides to, well, basically, he acts like a martyr and decides that he's gonna, like, allow himself to combust on behalf of the cause and killing the mushrooms. So he doesn't take his medication, and then he combusts. So it's more like not spontaneous combustion. It's more like a real planned and calculated human combustion. So that's pretty awesome. That was definitely a good scene. And definitely on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give Fungicide probably 7.5. Okay, so this has been Erica Doering for IHN. Bye!